So hi guys, this is Ilvi and this is my second video in the series of tips and tricks on how to improve your posture in your seat. Today's question comes from Elsa, and it's not so much a practical question with a practical advice. It is actually more a philosophical question, and I really like these kind of questions because it makes you think about the bigger picture here. And Elsa's question is, how important is the correct seat that we are teaching nowadays? And with that, she means the traditional idea of ear, shoulder, hip, heel aligned, vertical posture, upright spine, and so on. Because she says, well, if you look at natural people, nature tribes that are riding horses, you see totally different postures on horseback, and it seems to be functional as well. And if you go back in time and you look at the Renaissance or the Baroque period, they had different ideas about how to use the seat as well, and it was functional for them. So what is a good seat, and how important is it that we speak about a correct seat? Or should we just let people sit in whatever natural posture that they have? So I'm really, thank you Elsa for asking that question, because it is something that I've been thinking and studying a lot. I spent 5 months in Mongolia in my study time, studying the Przewalski horses, riding with the Mongolians. So I've spent a lot of time on horseback, making longer trackings as well. Multi-day rides, 80 to 100 kilometers every day, on a Mongolian saddle, with a Mongolian horse, with a Mongolian guide. So I've had plenty of opportunity to observe this particular, let's say, more natural riding. I mean, the Mongolians have a long history in riding, and they are famous for it. So yeah, what can we learn from them? And yeah, you're right, they have totally different seat. And of course, also if we look back in history, so for example, I'm just grabbing a book of Xenophon, and if you look, for example, at this seat, it's totally different than what we would consider correct, because we would say, oh, that's a chair seat, and if that horse would run, that person would fall over backwards and drop off. If you look at the back cover of this one, which is a book of Guérinier, you can also here see a little bit of a different position, arched back, longer legs than what we would now traditionally see. Same with the graphics on the inside. Yeah. So yeah, I would say my answer, what is a correct posture, would be it depends on the purpose of your riding. So of course, if you are a reiner and you need to make a sliding stop, you probably want to prepare yourself for the longer, like the abrupt sitting and then the sliding of the horse, taking a different seat than when you're a jumper going over a fence. So it depends a little bit on what you're doing in your riding, how you would use your body. What I've learned in my experience in Mongolia is that their way of riding is to be comfortable for long distances, really days on end, and that their way of doing it is to adjust their position. So they do not take one position and say, that's the correct one, you should stay in there. They are actually flexible and they move around a lot. So they would hang on one side of the saddle, then after a few kilometers, they would hang on the other side of the saddle, they would sit in front of the saddle, they would sit on the back of the saddle, they would stand in the stirrups, they would half turn, and they are comfortable with that because they adjust their positions. I would say, if you look at it for the horse's perspective, hanging to the side of the horse for a longer period of time and then hanging on the other side on a saddle with basically wooden slats on the horse's back, it was not the most horse-friendly way of riding. And that's also a little bit what hurt me being there and observing that for 5 months. So it depends on your purpose. If your purpose is to be comfortable for longer periods of time, their strategy works, and it works really well. But I think for us in our modern society here in the West, our purpose is also to make our horses comfortable and last and move correctly, biomechanically, over their back so that their bodies stay healthy, their front legs don't break down, they don't get sores on their back, and that they will stay healthy and happy in working with us for a longer time. And especially if we look at the academic art of riding, which we are pursuing here, it is to build up the horse in his physique, but also in his mind, to become the most beautiful and most proud and most well-balanced horse that this horse can be. And for that, we need a different seat than the Mongolians do, riding their ponies for 100 kilometers on a day. So that's, I think, one part of the answer. And of course, if we look back into history, also there, every master in the history had different goals. So if you were going out into the war and you had to do a man-to-man fight with two highly collected horses circling around each other, with the guys with the gun, with the swords hitting each other, they would have to kind of be able to brace themselves for impact and also to really give a good hit. It meant their seat was adjusted for very high collected work on the place with very quick turns, very quick movements, and kind of impacts with their swords or lances or whatever they would use. So again, that's not what we do. Usually we would like to ride our horses a little bit more forward than that. We would like to go out for a hack in the forest and make some kilometers in trot, make some kilometers in canter. Of course, if you look at the academic seat, where we are working in a more collected work, pretty much on a circle in the riding arena, we could go back more to this classical seat than if you are a leisure rider going out for several kilometers on your horse in the forest. So it depends on how collected your horses are, how collected you want your horses to be, what kind of movements you want your horses to make, what kind of seat we take. And I would say the seat that we teach in the centered riding is what I would say a basic middle position seat with a vertically aligned spine, the line ear, shoulder, hip, heel, so that if you want to go faster or make a jump, you can get out of your seat. You can get into a light seat, into a jumping seat. And if you want to do more collection, you can come a little bit more back and you can kind of go with the angle of the horse's spine with your own spine. Steinbrecht describes that really nice in his book. He says the angle of the spine of the horse and the rider of the horse need to be 90 degrees. So there should always be a 90-degree angle between the rider and the horse. So that means on a horizontally balanced horse, the rider is vertical. On a horse that's going more fast on the shoulders, the rider would be a little bit more forward. And on a horse that goes more collected, the rider would be sitting a little bit more backwards. But the angle of the spines would still be 90 degrees. And in the academic art of riding, we use this concept so that we can use our seat as a leverage to collect the horse. If the horse is able to understand that seat aid and if the horse has the physical ability to collect himself like that. So in short, why would we teach people a correct posture? So that you have a good middle ground so that people can from there deviate to whatever purpose that they have in their riding. So a good balance in our culture is no longer a given. The Mongolians, they have been riding since they were born. Some of them really are riding before they can walk. They also squat a lot more and they support themselves a lot more when they are off the horses. They're not hanging on sofas, watching television for several hours in the day. At least they didn't when I was there. Times are changing. So they have a much better natural posture and natural carrying in their bodies than we do. So part of our job as horse riding instructors is to teach people that natural self-carriage again, so that we can support ourselves on our horses in a correct way. And if we find a good alignment and a good middle ground there, then we have a very good basis from which we can deviate, to go faster and make a little jump, to collect, to turn, to correct our horses by going more on the inside seat or doing something in our bodies to, shift the weight, shift the balance. That's our job as riders. First, get out of the way of our horses so that we don't hinder them when they move. Find a good middle ground, and then we can start to make little changes. This was the answer to the second question in this line of videos. Stay tuned, there is more coming. You can always subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like to stay on top of these videos, or subscribe to my newsletter and you'll get an announcement when the next video is ready. Okay, have a good one everybody. Bye!